Hello, everyone. I'm Augie Napoli, President and CEO of the United Way of Greater Cleveland.
I'm Danielle Sidnor, President of the Cleveland branch of the NAACP. Together, we are honored to present to the community this series of community conversations on the Cleveland Consent Decree. Each session will focus on an area of the consent decree and police reform through a conversation among experts and community leaders to provide insight and to re-engage the community.
The objective of these conversations is to provide a forum to raise awareness and increase community engagement on the consent decree and how it affects members of our community. United Way's mission is being a voice for those in need. We know that there are so many underlying aspects of poverty which are hard to see and equally hard to discuss and solve. And certainly systemic racism is a main contributor to generational poverty that has afflicted our community for far too long. Not one organization can solve inequity, and I am humbled to be only a small part of a group of esteemed community leaders from whom you will have the privilege to hear in this series.
For 108 years, the Cleveland branch of the NAACP has worked to improve the political, educational, social, and economic status of minority groups, to eliminate racial prejudice, and to keep the public aware of the adverse effects of racial discrimination, and to take lawful action to secure its elimination. This community conversation and the monthly topics we will address related to the Cleveland Consent Decree are right in line with the work our organization has addressed and championed every day for over a century right here in Cleveland. Through this series, you will hear about the current status of the Cleveland Consent Decree and the future of policing in the city. And as the name of this event suggests, this is a two-way dialogue, and we want to hear from you tonight and every month in this series as we tackle these various topics.
I'd like to thank Cuyahoga Community College and Rockwell Automation for sponsoring and making this series possible. I would also like to thank the City Club of Cleveland for partnering with us in hosting the series of events, and WOVU for simulcasting this evening's discussion live on 95.9 FM. We'd also like to thank all of our community partners.
Good evening. My name is Danielle Sidnor, and tonight's topic is community engagement, recruitment, and diversity. The consent decree mandates the City of Cleveland Division of Police maintain a high level of quality service, ensure officer safety and accountability, and promote constitutional effective policing by reviewing and revising as necessary its recruitment and hiring program to ensure that it successfully attracts and hires a diverse group of qualified individuals. In developing and implementing its recruitment plan, the Cleveland Division of Police will consult with the Community Police Commission and other community stakeholders on strategies to attract a diverse pool of applicants. Tonight's conversation will review what has been done to accomplish this objective and what work remains to build trust within our community. Tonight's moderator is Darielle Snipes. Darielle Snipes serves the Cleveland Metropolitan School District CMSD News Bureau as a field reporter and anchor for CMSD TV. You might not have known we have a TV station in our school district. She covers CMSD news and activities for broadcasts on both cable and web outlets and supports departments and schools with videos and messaging for CMSD TV broadcasts. I am honored to introduce tonight's conversation moderator, Darielle Snipes.
Thank you so much, Danielle and Augie, for that introduction. And thank you to the United Way of Greater Cleveland and the Cleveland branch of the NAACP for inviting me to moderate this critical discussion. And thank you to the City Club of Cleveland for hosting this series of events and WOVU for simulcasting this evening's discussion live on 95.9 FM, WOIO Channel 19, and WKYC Channel 3. We'll also be live streaming this discussion. So that's everyone understands how we will interact this evening. This is a community conversation. We will begin with questions that I prepared for this evening's conversation. And again, it is a conversation. There will be public questions and answer segment at approximately 7 p.m. when questions from the community will be heard and shared with our panel. You can start asking those questions right now at any time during this evening's program, and we'll make sure to attempt to get to all the questions before the event is up at 7:30. So you can text your questions to 216-307-5632. Again, that number is 216-307-5632. I'll be saying the number throughout the conversation, so if you missed it, I will definitely say it again, so don't worry. And at this time, I would like to introduce our panel of experts for this evening. First, we have Detective Felton Collier. Detective Felton Collier started with the Cleveland Division of Police in 2008. Upon graduation from the Police Academy, Detective Collier was assigned to the 5th District. Collier is a part of the public safety recruitment team where he assists with the recruitment of all of the city's public safety careers. Kareem Hinton is the founder and member of Black Lives Matter Cleveland and a bail advocate in Cleveland, Ohio, where he serves the community. Kareem was compelled to be an advocate after high-profile shootings by Cleveland police and comes to activism and the bail reform movement after working hard toward police reform. Michelle Heyer has been an assistant U.S. attorney since 2003. She focuses on civil rights enforcement, including the ADA, the Fair Housing Act, and constitutional policing. Prior to that, she was a trial attorney for the Department of Justice's Office of Special Investigation. Director Carrie Howard currently serves as the safety director of the City of Cleveland's Department of Public Safety. Prior to becoming director, he served as the department's assistant director of safety operations. Earl Ingram serves as the club director for the St. Luke's Manor Boys and Girls Club. Since 2014, Earl has been blessed to work with a multitude of amazing young leaders from all over Cleveland who is proud to stand alongside every day. Earl's passion centers around creating authentic spaces for youth to be heard and seen as equal partners. Earl is also joined by 2 students from the Boys and Girls Club, Caleb Harmon and Ryan Greer, who will ask 2 questions during the question and answer segment. I'm looking forward to their questions. Victor Maurice is the executive director of Esperanza in Cleveland, where he has overseen substantial growth and partnerships across the Cleveland community to spearhead major community initiatives. Mr. Ruiz was a member of the selection panel for the Community Police Commission, which the Cleveland Consent Decree established. He is also a member of the Cleveland Police Monitoring Team. Commander Johnny Johnson. Commander Johnson is over the Cleveland Division of Police's Bureau of Community Relations. Commander Johnson created the Community and Problem-Oriented Policing Plan and Neighborhood District Policing Committee Enhancement Strategy. He also helped create the community engagement and problem solving and managing community and problem-oriented policing activities for superiors training curriculums. Also tonight, Alicia Ellis will present the community questions. Ms. Ellis is the founder and creator of the multimedia platform Mas Lare, and she is also co-founder of the women's empowerment group Fierce Women on Board. Well, I would like to welcome everyone and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to have what I hope is a very interesting and productive conversation. And I would like to start this evening with talking about some of the things that have happened in the last couple of weeks and within the last week before we really get into the nuts and bolts of community engagement, recruitment, and diversity. The first thing I would like to talk about is issue 24. As you all know, last week, the people went to the polls and 59% of Cleveland voters approved issue 24, a proposed now elected amendment that would drastically change how the city's policing department operates and put final decision on policing policies and discipline of officers in the hands of a civilian-led board and commission. This body would now have power instead of an advisory. Director Howard, I would like to start with you on how do do you think that issue 24 is going to change or have effect on community engagement when it comes to the consent decree?
So keeping in mind with the gains that have been made in the consent decree, the things that we have on the table with regard to community engagement, and I can talk about some of that stuff more pointedly, is that I think that what we're going to see a continuation of what we have been doing. I believe that we'll probably see some input and greater involvement from the CPC. But with the path that we're on and the things that we're doing, I see us continuing on and possibly having some advancement in that and more dialogue.
Great, thank you. And then Kareem, how do you feel that it's going to change?
So, I'm glad to hear Public Safety Director Kerry Howard say what he just said. It's a different tone than what I've heard previously, but I will say this, that the big difference that you're going to see is that I think that it's going to be the death of favoritism that exists within the disciplinary process. It doesn't matter who you know politically, the amount of clout that you have and so forth. But if your actions warrant some type of discipline, that it will be fair and equitable discipline, and it won't be able to be overridden by the chief or the public safety director.
And Victor, I wanted to get your input on this on issue 24 as well.
Yeah, I think what I'll just add is I think that this is an example of community engagement. And the community came together and supported and pushed an effort. And I do feel optimistic that with the work that's been done at the police department and with the incoming mayor, that I do think this is going to be a very positive effort moving forward.
Hey, Danielle, if I may, because I answered the question with regard to community engagement. Thinking about, in my mind, I was thinking about community engagement between the uniformed members of the Division of Police and the community. But to touch on discipline, over the time that I've been safety director since June 19 last year, it has not mattered who anyone knew or we have operated on fairness and transparency, providing in-depth decisions that show support for the disciplinary actions that have been made. So that fairness and the disciplinary process that folks have seen coming out of the Department of Public Safety is going to, I see that remaining consistent.
Okay, I appreciate that. Also last week, Justin Bibb became mayor-elect after 16 years of having Mayor Frank Jackson as mayor. And also Police Chief Calvin Williams also said that he's going to be stepping down in January, which a lot of people already expected. But, now that we will have a new mayor and a new police chief, and I'll throw this out to the panel, how do you think this is going to change, affect, anything when it comes to having the consent decree, to have, basically, what some might call, new blood in these positions? I'll go with Victor. I'll go with you first. What do you think about that?
Well, I do. I've been listening to, just during the campaign, just the dialogues and the conversations. And I do think that we're going to enter an era where there's going to be a lot of bridges are going to be built, and a lot of efforts that at times may have been working against each other. I do think that under this administration, there's going to be just a lot of that coming together. So I feel really optimistic. And also, I think Justin's going to carry on the work that our current mayor, the passion and commitment to Cleveland. So I think it's going to be very positive for all of us. And I think you're starting to hear, I think Kareem mentioned earlier that he was very optimistic about some of the words that were being used and the change in language. So I feel very optimistic, as I've said. Yeah.
Great. Kareem?
Yes. Well, firstly, I wanted to say, I hope that every time I say something, You're not going to give a public safety director or law enforcement an opportunity to rebut what I say, because that's been a common theme that's been happening. So they get a lot of opportunities to speak, and it becomes their show. But so please, I hope you guys handle that. But what I wanted to say was, I'm optimistic under this administration, because this is an administration that's not going to be, or at least doesn't give the appearance that they will be working to sabotage the consent decree. I feel that, being that the current consent decree is the city's, like, I believe around 37% compliant, I believe that you will see leaps and bounds from that once the Bibb administration comes on, and you'll find that their compliance record is going to be astronomical in comparison. They won't have some of the saboteurs in place that they currently have now. So I'm very excited.
Great. And Prima, I just want to say it is a conversation. So if the police want.
Fine. I hope I have the opportunity then to speak on. Otherwise, you're going to be it's going to be very lopsided. And so I just hope that doesn't occur like it has in the past.
You're more than welcome to also to speak. It's a conversation. So I just want to, it's not, if you want to speak up, you're more than welcome. So please speak up as much as you would like. Okay. But when it comes to Mayor-elect Bibb, he has, talked about during his campaigns that he wants to reset the conversation by reaching out to citizens and all stakeholders, including the police union, in his efforts to recruit and rethink how police are deployed and bring up more foot patrols back into the neighborhood. When it comes, I'll start with, Director Howard, when it comes to this, and I know that, you guys will get your marching orders with the new chief and the new mayor, but, when you hear, the new mayor speaking about things that to bring back things like foot patrols or, things like that, what is that? How does that make you guys feel on, what you guys have been doing?
So the discussions that we've had over the last year have been focused on, heavily focused on community engagement, community interaction. We were stifled by the pandemic, even changing our car plan and interacting with folks and dealing with that. But we're looking forward to having officers who are going to engage with citizens more. And there's a way to roll it out. We have to keep in mind that we are in unique times, and we have to operate with a sense of safety, both for the citizen and for the officers. But I'll give an example of our expected increase in community engagement. Is that one of the complaints that we get throughout the community is traffic enforcement. What we've instituted, and you'll see being rolled out more, is we have a traffic warning courtesy notice that's going to be given out. And on that notice, and also accompanied by a business card, is a QR code on the back, so that citizens who interact with officers can do an immediate survey about their interaction with the division of police or with that officer. I bring that up to say that there are things that are going to be happening, especially as we come out of this pandemic and going into the winter months, and then following that, the warmer weather, where you're going to see increased community engagement as we've been talking about.
And when it comes to, I'm sorry.
Daria?
Yes, go ahead.
If I may. Hello, everyone. Hopefully everyone's having a terrific evening. I'm actually here with about 10 youth leaders from my Boys and Girls Club. So team, say what's up. So just chiming back in on something that was previously shared as far as what we're looking for in the new administration as far as it pertains to the consent decree. Speaking on behalf of my team, we're definitely not looking for more of the same. So we're looking for a new wave to be ushered in, more accountability, more transparency, and more actualization of community voice, especially as that pertains to the youth level. So I have them here with me today so that they can hear from, community leaders, some who are involved directly with law enforcement, implementing the consent decree and so forth, so that they can continue to educate themselves and also share their voice as well. But we are definitely looking for a new move in a new direction and some new energy as it pertains to the consent decree.
Perfect. And Michelle, I want to bring you into the conversation. When it comes to, a new administration with the consent decree, do you feel that, that transparency or communication might improve or continue to improve?
Yeah, and I would just echo what Earl just said, about the new energy. I think there's going to be a tremendous amount of that. And, obviously this is going to be a significant priority of the new administration. And I am sure that we'll be able to work with them on, fulfilling the goals that everybody wants to see happen.
And so the consent decree, has been in place for going on 6 years, and it's been, some might say a struggle, or to get this police reform off the ground and compliant so that the DOJ will dismiss it. I just want to point out that there was the consent decree was in the news again today with a report from Matt Richmond at IdeaStream, who was reporting that the police might have violated the consent decree because the Cleveland police policy on transporting people in a mental health crisis for medical treatment was changed after receiving approval from federal judge Solomon Oliver, and may have violated the consent decree. And so, Director Howard, I just want to talk to, start with you on this, and whoever else wants to chime in. The policies are crafted, and it takes a long time, and it gets community input, and then needs, obviously the approval of the federal judge. And if this is the case, it's not saying it has happened, but there seems to be some discrepancies between the approved language and the language that was given to the police officers. How does something like this happen if this is the case?
So the first time I heard about it was during our prep session, when we talked about it. I've been in meetings all day. I printed out the article. And then I also went and got a copy of the GPO, GPO 5.1103. And the section that the article points to as not being in there, I have it here in my hand, and it's on page 6 of 12, and it says that if a nonviolent individual has the ability to seek or care voluntarily but needs immediate care, the officer shall determine options for emergency care and transport, or arrange transportation of the individual to in a safe manner and appropriate facility. I'm not sure if the correct one was posted. This is the one that I have, but I'll look into it. But it's also important to note that the Division of Police has been involved in crisis intervention transportation before the diversion center has come into play for probably about 15 years. And generally what they would do is they would transport someone to St. Vincent's Charity Hospital. So it's not new to the division. I will look into the claims of the article on IdeaStream and get the correct GPO posted. But I'm not aware of any requests that have come across my desk for a comment on it. I know the article states that a request was made to the division. All requests don't always make it across my desk expeditiously, but it seems that if that's the case, that it's an error, the correct one will be posted.
Okay. But I just want also, because it was reported out today, and I know you're going to work it out, but I want to bring it to the rest of the members of the panel. If this is the case, do you feel that, this is a step back? Because, Michelle, I want to start with you. As, U.S. attorney, these, policies, go through a lot of layers for a reason. And, if words are being left out on the implementation, then it's almost as if it never happened, would you say?
Oh, I wouldn't say that. And I would also say, I don't think anybody's goal is to, have a running tally of, supposed violations of the consent decree. What we really all want to see happen is, policing that works for the city of Cleveland. And, it's my understanding that there was some thought about, whether that was really the best way to handle the situation. And a decision was made that it was probably best to make a change. To the extent that this may have been a consent decree violation, and again, I haven't really analyzed that either. It's more in the realm of a technical violation, and I don't really think anybody is interested in focusing on that. We just want to focus on getting the best policy in place.
Okay, understand. Anybody else like to add to this?
I guess I would chime in and say, in rebuttal to that, if it was a violation, whether technical or purposely done, I think what just your average citizen is looking for is just a level of fairness, as Kareem hinted to earlier. If being in violation of a law, even if it were a minor infraction, would lead to, say, a ticket or a potentiality of ending up in jail, I think citizens are just looking for the same form of accountability for our leadership. And I think when there are violations that are made, we're past the time of hearing that it's a oops or it's a my bad from our leadership, especially after we are already dealing with so many things on a daily, just even as it pertains to the pandemic, and constantly having to look at situations where the accountability is more intense from a regular citizen side and not from our leaders and our law officials and law enforcement.
And no, and I definitely appreciate that, and I understand that. And obviously, compliance with the consent decree is an important goal. But I think here, what the process doesn't work that we're looking for violations and keeping track of them. I mean, what the ultimate end game is to bring the city ultimately at the end of this process into compliance with the consent decree. And if something like this was a little stumble in that way, it's not going to affect the ultimate outcome, which is to get the city into compliance.
Yeah, and I echo Michelle on that. It's important that the correct policy definitely be posted, and when things like this rises to our attention, we have to look at it. It has to be fixed, and then we have to put a statement out to the community that a mistake was made and that the correct one was posted.
Yes, I wanted to say that we have, there are policies that are in existence right now that have come down since the implementation of the consent decree. And still, even in this process of dealing with disciplines for officers, we found that the recommendations, or rather the policies that have been put in place have oftentimes been cast to the side. And so I must agree with Earl in the fact that we can't make this a little thing, because this is what they will call a slight omission, but in actuality, with things that are actually in the policy, we found that the folks that are the decision makers with regards to discipline have not even been necessarily going by the very policies that they're supposed to be enforced, the new policies.
And I don't know if Victor wants to jump in and speak to this, because compliance with the consent decree is the role of the monitor. They are the entity that evaluates that, and that's sort of an ongoing process. And I think that the head monitor Hassan Aden has talked about in the last few weeks that it is sort of transitioning into the phase of getting the policies into place, and now we turn to evaluation of compliance with the policies. And so, the things that are being mentioned now will be evaluated. The monitor will be doing reviews and reports of the city's compliance, and all of these things will be examined.
Yeah, Michelle, well said. And also would like to just draw people's attention to our semi-annual report that comes out twice a year, which goes down every paragraph of the consent decree and talks about the district's level of compliance, from non-compliance to operational to general compliance. And just the other thing I'd like to add is, I think these conversations are so important because tying this back to community engagement, I think for that to be effective, we have to have transparency, and also we have to have accountability. And I think that that's what we're talking about here, is that, ensuring that the information is available to the public in a transparent way. If mistakes are made, such as the wrong GPO being placed and fixing that, but if there isn't, compliance with a GPO or someone's violating something, that the community holds the police department accountable for that as well. So, thank you.
Well, so that leads me to my next question, which was about the Cleveland Police Monitor and how, he filed the report in federal court earlier this month. And he said that it would be at least late 2023 before Cleveland has met the requirements of the police department's consent decree. It was supposed to happen in 2022 in areas like community policing, bias-free policing, search and seizure, and the relationships between the police department and the Community Police Commission. That most of the categories that he used, he rates them are partial compliance. He also said that relations between the police department and the Community Policing Commission remain in an area of concern for him. So the report, described that the CPC as plagued by a lack of respectful, transparent, and productive collaboration between the city and the PC. So Victor, back to you. I mean, so this was not, this report is saying that there are still a lot of problems, 6 years into this and into this consent decree, especially when it comes to the police and the commission.
Yeah, and we've been reporting that throughout. As I said, there's 2 reports that come out every year. And in order to really fulfill the consent decree, we have to see 2 years worth of compliance in all aspects. And there are many sections that we're still, we're improving in some, and in other areas, we still have a lot of work to do. So as Michelle said, the next 2 years will really be more around auditing and ensuring that the CDP is reaching that general compliance.
Does anyone else want to add to or speak to this report?
I would say it's interesting to hear that we're that far away. I think that's a little disappointing. I think for parts of the policy, it may take some time to reach and hit certain goals and just things that are pinpointed. But in my opinion, like your basic human matters, excessive force should be done away with immediately. Treating your fellow man humanely and with respect, operating in transparency. I think those things should be done immediately. I think it's disappointing to hear those numbers still be so low, so many years in, and then obviously, hearing the new date of completion be pushed back yet again is it's frustrating. And I think I speak for myself, obviously, and my team who's here with me alongside me in the room.
So if I could add that, when we have individuals, that for example, that work with the city, that say things like, everyone's familiar with the forced resignation of Aisha Bell Hardaway. And so when you have people like, Greg White make statements like, you're too much of an advocate for the community and the Community Police Commission, I don't think you should be in this role. Like, wanting her to not be in that position. I mean, it's not necessarily about being an advocate for the community, but it's about being an advocate for what's right. And so when you have someone like that, that was a part of the memorandum that we had back in 2004, where the DOJ came in and said they wanted some changes, that was failed. And you brought this same person back on, to oversee this one on the city's behalf. I mean, like it appears to be intentional sabotage. So of course, we're going to have the lack of progress that we're having.
And if I may, just to bring it back to why community engagement is so important, Kareem, you're right about, and as you know, Professor Bell Hardaway is back with the monitoring team. And a lot of that was really because of the advocacy of the community. So just bringing it back to why community engagement is just so critical for any reform effort, especially this one.
And so I just want to make sure that we get questions for the 7 o'clock when we hit 7 o'clock. So if anyone has any questions, please make sure to text your questions to 216-307-5632. Again, that's 216-307-5632. And so, I know that there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Nobody is disputing that. But, when it comes to, community engagement, Michelle, just talk about how important this work is for the community to be involved, to make sure that, that the city gets off the consent decree and does have significant police reform when it comes to policing here in Cleveland.
Yeah. So, whenever I talk about the consent decree, I always like to start by looking at what led up to it. The consent decree is really designed to address what DOJ found during its 15-month-long investigation of CDP. And probably the most elemental finding was that there were structural and systemic deficiencies at CDP, and that included inadequate engagement with the community and a lack of trust between CDP and the community it serves. And, Community engagement, there are some very obvious and tangible ways that happens, like the, Community Police Commission and the district policing committees. But really, engaging with the community, is really a key aspect of literally everything that CDP does. And it's really the cornerstone of pretty much everything in the consent decree. I think you could look through the consent decree and pick pretty much any provision at random, and we could figure out a way that it relates back to community engagement. And so improving the relationship between CDP and the community is really, it's a cornerstone of the consent decree. And, I think that one thing that we should talk about is, that the consent decree required CDP to transform its philosophy and the way that it polices to become focused on community and problem-oriented policing. And that is, really a way to, it's a way to empower the community to have a voice in what CDP does. It's a way to get the police to recognize that the community is a valuable resource for information and ideas on how to solve the problems in the community. And it's to get them to target their policing activities at solving problems rather than just, proactively and deciding what the problems are and figuring out ways to prevent them rather than just being reactive, which is, I think, what a lot of people see as the problematic policing that they don't like. So one of the things was that CDP was required to develop a community and problem-oriented policing policy. And that is something that we've been working a lot on recently, like including just earlier this week. And that policy is very close to completion. And, I'm sure that Commander Johnson, who's working really hard on that, can talk about that. But some of the really key elements about that that I think that the community will appreciate hearing about are that it requires officers to spend 20% on average of their time doing what are considered to be community engagement activities. And, I will let the folks from CDP talk a little bit more about what that is going to involve. It also requires them to incorporate CPOP, that's what we call community and oriented policing, into most of their policies, explicitly, including what we're also talking about tonight, which is hiring and recruiting.
So Commander Johnson, so you've been over this. So just talk a little about what are some of the things that the Cleveland Division of Police will be doing, that Michelle was talking about to make sure that there is more community engagement with the community.
Okay, so let me take a couple of steps back and talk about the CPOP plan. And the CPOP, of course, like Michelle said, is community engagement merged with problem-oriented policing. So the plan itself, we didn't just put that together ourselves. We got input from the community, from various communities around the city. I think we hit 18 different places. We also had presentations on what, and there was a survey done on what the community actually wanted to see in the plan. Okay. And the reason why I wanted to go back to that is because as we're seeing through this conversation, community engagement means a lot of things to a lot of people, and it's multi-layered. So what the CPOP plan does and what the CPOP GPO does is focuses not only mostly just on how officers who are assigned to patrol duties in the varying specialized units engage with the public, but also how it ties into recruitment and also how it ties into our deployment plan. And so before I talk about what GPO policies are doing, what we plan on doing with officers, we also can't underscore enough that a lot of this has a whole lot to do with our ability to recruit and onboard officers, because what you don't want to do with community engagement is rush away from it. You want to be able to take the time that's needed to not only just engage, you just get to know the community and have them get to know you, but you really want to get to the root of a problem so that you can come up with some solutions to help fix the problem that you find. And you're going to do that with the community. So what the CPOP policy does is say, hey, this is something that you will do. You will get out of your cars. You will get to know the neighborhoods that you're assigned to patrol. You will spend a dedicated amount of your time engaging with the citizens and finding solutions to problems. But again, in the 20% expectation, it's all tied into our ability to onboard officers. And the reason why I'm harping on this is because everyone on this panel has an opportunity to help us bring community members into the division and bring their voices with them, their different experiences and opinions, and so that we can truly make this division a community division.
So before I get to recruitment, I wanted to let Earl respond to this. Earl, you know what Commander Johnson just said. You know, a lot of the police officers do come in contact with, some of our youngest citizens. I mean, what do you think about the fact that a lot of what they're trying to do is to just have interaction when there's not necessarily a crisis or an issue, and get to know community members, especially our youngest ones?
I think it's imperative for law enforcement officials to be seen in the community, to be seen as an individual that's safe, and to be seen as someone who actually cares and isn't, someone to be fearful from or an enemy. Just to be transparent, I think the fail gap is that oftentimes we hear people reference engagement, and engagement is more than just an opportunity a month or an event that you have once a month or once every 3 months, and then no one ever sees you again. It's about building a relationship in the community with the residents. And at times you hear people or entities say, well, we're in the communities. We did this event, this event, this event, this event. But if we never see you again, there's not a safe feeling from you going forward. If there's no other communication past that, then it turns into just a photo opportunity. And I know with myself working with youth, it's always a good ploy to have youth at an event to take pictures with, to post on your social media websites, things of that nature. But if they have no more interaction with you, it's not a good feeling for them going forward. They feel used. They feel as if they're being props or entities to just get, shares and likes or, other support. So I think for me, we're just looking for a real relationship. And we welcome that. We welcome the feedback. We welcome having you around if, your true intentions are to come around and be a partner.
So can I add to that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Mr. Ingram, I'm so happy you said that because you're 100% right. Community engagement is more than just a one-off. It's about building relationships. It's about building relationships, which will build a partnership, which leads to trust and legitimacy, right? So I wanted to talk about some of the things that we are doing. We are reaching out, not only the Bureau of Community Relations, but also the districts. The districts are the district officers by way of the community engagement officers, by way of just the officers that are on patrol, and also by way of the district policing committee, which Michelle touched on, are reaching out to folks not at events, not at coffee with a cop. That's how a lot of these things start, and that's how oftentimes the relationship begins. But it has to be repeated, and so that's a part of the policy. That's a part of the plan. Do exactly what you said, and I'm glad you mentioned it because I should have. And the other part of it that I want to talk about is the district policing committees. Now, the consent decree changed what was in place for decades, which was the community relations meetings, to district policing committees. The idea was to make them more functional and intentional to put residents in that particular district in touch with district officers and district command to engage, build relationships, and solve problems together. And so that's something else that's, we've been working on. And again, I hope this don't sound like an excuse, but I'm quite certain looking at your beautiful kids with their mask on, COVID significantly impacted our process of our progress in terms of community engagement. We've never been months and months without being able to be out there with the community. So what I wanted you to know and wanted everyone else to know and to comment if they would like is we hear you. We understand when you say it can't just be a one-off. We wholeheartedly agree. One-offs are definitely needed, but it can't just be that.
And can I just jump in and point out that, the kinds of things that you're talking about, Earl, the kinds of interactions that you seem to want are actually addressed in the policy. Building ongoing relationships with the members of the community and the neighborhoods that these officers serve is actually something that is included in that 20% of their time. And I interact with officers and go on ride-alongs and talk to them about this. And a lot of officers actually do want to be able to spend time having one-on-one close contact on an ongoing basis with people that live in their neighborhoods. But I think that previously they were concerned that that wasn't what they were expected to be doing. And what this new policy makes clear is that that absolutely is what they're expected to be doing and to be spending at least 20% of their time on. So, to give you an example, I went on a ride-along with two officers who stopped to play basketball with some kids. And you could assume that they were just doing that to impress me and show off to me. But these kids knew these officers well. It was clear that they do this on a regular basis. And, I think the officers felt like, it was really not what they were supposed to be doing, but that they wanted to do it. And now what's being clearly communicated in this new policy is, no, that is what you're supposed to be doing. That is policing. And you are going to be rewarded for doing that. So, and I'm hopeful that, with this new policy, a lot of officers will feel freer to develop the kinds of relationships that you're talking about.
I'm glad to hear that. Kareem, if I could quickly chime in, I'm glad to hear that. I would like to just quickly say, we're mindful that they're at work as well and that they have a job to do. So this doesn't need to be, hour-long sessions, 2-hour-long sessions. We're just popping by for a few minutes to say hello, give a fist bump, chop it up for a quick second. If you gotta be back out, we're definitely mindful of that. Also, you mentioned a ride-along program. Students who are in the room with me here now had an opportunity to facilitate a training for incoming cadets during the summer during one of the ride-along programs. But one of the takeaways we took was that we hope that this will turn into something that is for all officers, especially current officers who may have been in violation of some of the things that cause us to have a consent decree, and not just for the incoming group. Kareem, I'll get it back to you. I'm sorry.
No problem. I was just going to say regarding when it comes to recruitment and community engagement, there are things internally and that need to happen from within inside the policing agency. So, when we talk about if I'm looking for a home and I'm in a neighborhood looking for a home, I'm going to go to the folks that I identify with as a father, as a husband. I'm going to say, how is this street? How is this school system? And so people that, are coming from the community that wish to perhaps become a part of law enforcement here, they're going to go to the people that they identify with. How does this treat people as a woman? How does this agency treat people as people of color, and so forth? So when you have things that are happening internally where law enforcement officers are not necessarily getting the support that they need from the higher ups, when they see inequitable disciplines that occur, they're not going to have great things to say, and then when the members, and so therefore recruitment is going to be an issue. But then also when you have members of the community that experience things like what happened to a young man who was at the Dave's supermarket and he was accused of theft. You had an officer who was there, working under the table, didn't report it, and that officer roughed up that young man. You had people that were over him, the director of public safety, who wrote a scathing letter made a scathing notations regarding the woman who witnessed it, the mother of the child, and the child itself, and just glossed over the fact that a young man was slammed by this grown man. When I say young man, I'm not talking about a 13, 14, 15, 18-year-old. I'm talking about a 12-year-old. So when you have instances like that happen, how much faith is the community going to have? There's a lot of work internally that needs to be done, and that's exactly why we passed issue 24, and issue 24 is going to make some cultural changes within the policing agency, and we'll see some of those changes in recruitment.
Thank you, Kareem. I just wanted to, we have about 10 more minutes left in this conversation, and then we'll get to the questions of the public. So I just wanted to throw out the number again. If you have any questions, 216-307-5632, text your questions there and they will be answered. We'll try to get to as many of the questions as we can, but they will start being answered or asked at 7 o'clock. And so I wanted to segue to Detective Collier because, you know, we're talking about recruitment, and I know that you have mentioned that recruitment has been an issue, and especially with COVID. But what are some of the things that the department is trying to do, especially when it comes to what Kareem was talking about, when more recruiting, you know, more minorities, you know, Hispanic, Black, Asian, to the force, so that more of the people who live in the city will see themselves in the police force?
So when it comes to recruitment, we do a lot of different things within the city of Cleveland. We work a lot with all the city council members to talk to them and see about the different things that they're holding their events, get them to put the word out there that the city of Cleveland is hiring police officers. We also work with a bunch of different organizations in the city. We contact all of the Cleveland CDCs. We work with different organizations like EYEJ, which is headed by Maya Moore. And that deals with a lot of young people. So we try to do a lot of different things. We recruited the HBCU colleges here in the state of Ohio. So we go down to Central State and Wilberforce, go down there and we talk to those students as well. So there's a lot of different things that we've been doing. COVID has stopped us from getting out in the community as much as we did. I mean, prior to COVID, we probably averaged over 200 something events per year and different things and functions that we went to and even hosted our own. Since COVID, that number has probably been down. Actually, just this year, we probably just broke over 100 different events again. But there's a lot of different ways that we go out. We also try to increase our imprint on social media because right now, a lot of people get their information from social media. We work with the Hispanic Police Officer Association. So they attend a lot of different events. They help recruit a lot of the Hispanic officers that we do get to apply. We work with the Black Shield organization here with the city of Cleveland as well. And so when you look at our application numbers, especially our last like 4 or 5 applications, our minority numbers have actually been over 50%. And that includes Black officers, Hispanic officers, Asians, and everything like that. So when you talk about minorities, I think we do a great job in recruiting minorities to come out and take that. Even though the numbers overall may be lower, the numbers of minorities are actually up and applying for applications.
And so I just have to ask, I know you said you go to a lot of different universities, but have you reached out to the high schools and like CMSD or the Boys and Girls Clubs, trying to introduce the career at a younger age for
yes.
potential applicants?
Actually, this past week, I was at Jar Marshall. Like I said, prior to COVID, we went to a lot of the high schools. We go to the elementary schools. A lot of the schools call us and ask us to introduce, especially at the high schools, and ask us to introduce public safety careers to some of the high school students who maybe aren't thinking about going to college and they're looking for other opportunities. So we go there and we talk to the high school students as well. We also work with an organization called Junior Achievement. They bring a lot of different schools down to public hall, down to the city of Cleveland. And we talk to a lot of younger kids there, introduce them to public safety careers there. So we're starting, I've gone to talk to kindergarten students. And we start talking to them as early as we possibly can to start introducing them to these careers. And the hope is that as we keep talking to them as they progress through school, from kindergarten through high school, we'll be able to, get some of those kids to apply to the department as well.
And Danielle, if you, we just crossed a milestone with South High School, making it out of one committee. Hopefully it'll be passed within the next 2 weeks, where we're going to opening up a public safety training central academy at the old South High School. And we're partnering with CMSD there to do a vocational program to begin a pipeline from high school into public safety, filling that gap between high school and public safety with the cadet program that will allow us to be more present in the community and increase engagement with the community.
Well, that sounds good. And Earl, I mean, when you're working with your students at the Boys and Girls Club, I mean, are any of your students interested in becoming law enforcement? I know it's, some might have a perceived notion of what it is. I mean, what are some of your students today? What do they say when you talk about law enforcement as a career?
It's been something that's popped up with a few students from time to time. Some students are inspired by having an opportunity to become a member of the police force and help make a change. At other times, they become leery because they see what they feel, in their words, a lack of accountability from officer to officer, and officers stepping up and sharing a voice to their colleagues, doing things that are unbecoming of a police officer. I would say for ones who have thought about it in the past, they're kind of on the fence.
I mean, and Michelle, would you say, if a student or a young person is feeling this way, or Victor, either one, or Kareem, whoever wants to answer this, that's the whole point of the consent decree and police reform, is to change the culture so that young people will feel more compelled to be a part of the police department, and because they will have that everything in place so that it doesn't seem, so it's on the up and up. Would you say, Michelle or Victor or Earl, if you want to chime in again?
Yeah, I go ahead,
Go ahead.
Michelle.
Well, I was just going to say, yeah, I think it's understandable that, some kids would not be attracted to, serve in a police department that they don't feel reflects their values and, that doesn't treat their community with respect. And so hopefully, as progress is made toward fulfilling the goals of the consent decree, that will start to change. But I understand, I think it's very understandable that that's going to be a process.
Yeah, Michelle, I agree with you. And, I go back to the early days of the consent decree when the monitoring team facilitated focus groups. And that included groups that represented every district, as well as some specific groups, one of which was youth. And I just remember very clearly still being in those back rooms listening, and when they were interviewing the youth and they asked them, would you ever consider being a police officer? And just an overwhelming response that absolutely not. And because of these issues of your lack of trust and what they've seen. And that's why I think this community engagement is so important. And when you read the consent decree, Section 3, the full title of that is Community Engagement and Building Trust. And I think this is really critical. And that's why these officer outreaches are so important with young people, because not only are you building relationships, but you're also helping to create your future pipeline and your future police officers.
Great.
And I just do want to jump really quickly and say, and I'm sorry if I cut you off, Earl, but one thing for young people to think about is you can wait for, the police force and police practices to change, or you can step in and try to become part of the change, because, unless and until the ranks of the police force more closely reflect the community, it's going to be a slower process to, get them into alignment with the community's values.
Can I jump in one more time?
Sure. I think Kareem wanted to say something first, and then we'll let you jump in. Okay, Kareem?
Yeah, I was just going to say, one of the things that aspect of what Michelle just brought up, just trying to are you just going to watch? And so that's part of what the community did. We saw that there's a problem changing the existing culture. There's too much support for the old ways of doing things, the old biases and so forth. And so therefore, that's why we had, issue 24 be placed on the ballot, and it, passed unanimously. And so, that's a part of it. And I honestly believe that a complement to that is going to be young people who will join the ranks with the desire of being a part of the change, as well as officers that are already in the ranks, because the bad apples are going to have to make some changes or they're going to have to go. But there are going to be those that are in there that have been waiting for this. And those officers are going to be the officers, the veterans who are training these new officers coming in, and these old officers that are, all about accountability and want equity and discipline. These officers are going to be, the ones that are going to help usher in.
Oh, did he freeze?
I
Is that
think so.
me? Did he freeze? Okay. Well, we'll wait for him to come back. But Commander, were you the one that wanted to say something as well?
Yes, I know we're running short, so I'll be brief. I just wanted to touch upon 3 programs that we've been running long before the consent decree about youth. We have a law enforcement explorer program that takes youth from 14 to 20. We've actually we updated our academy for them. It's now 20 weeks. We actually teach them what we do, how we do it, and all of that. They actually compete against other explorers. And while the academy is only 20 weeks, we continue to interact with them until they turn 21. We also have a program at Camp Forbes. Now, again, before COVID, Parks and Recs would bring in 100 students per week, and we'd have candid conversations about anything that they want. And it typically turned into these tough issues. And and that's something that we continue to do after COVID, but of course, not as many kids. And of course, the Explorer program is going to be about recruiting, you know, the engagement with the other Camp 4 is going to be about recruiting. So there are things that we are already doing in place. So I don't want us to end on an area that no kids want supposed to be, because it's got somewhat of an over exaggeration.
And then we have to be supportive of young people who want to be police officers. Like, if, you know, while we're out there marketing our application period, which we are now constantly accepting applications, we are in a rolling application period, that when young people want to aspire to become police officers, we do need to encourage them to do so. And that's what's going to help to tear down that perceived wall between being a police officer in the community. Because police officers, we need to get it out that police officers are community, right? They are citizens. We need to change the mindset of the division of the police and of the community so that they can come together on what's in common and get out to the Boys and Girls Club, partner with CMSD, reach out to young people who want to be law enforcement officers and encourage them to do so. And maybe we can tone down, the visceral rhetoric that feeds the animosity and start talking about more positivity.
Thank you for that. Kareem, you froze up, so I want to give you a chance to finish your statement before we go to community questions. Do you want to finish what you were saying before you froze up?
Yeah, and I apologize. I was just gonna just add that, it's just really about having some, folks feeling supported, knowing that they have some accountability in place. I think that, we're just gonna, bring just a change in culture, and just, and then I will add and close, with that, oftentimes it's very easy to say, you know what, we need to stop with certain language or stop talking about certain things, which is kind of what we see going on with the battles within school systems now. A lack of acknowledgement of, the past and complicity in the current situation. And I think that the way that, we get past certain things is ownership, taking onus. And when you take onus, then, like an addict, you can move forward and actually heal and get better. And that's just something that we don't see very much of when it comes to the ranks of law enforcement, particularly here in Cleveland.
Yeah, and Daniel, I agree. We can't ignore the history of policing. We can't ignore what it once was. We have to, acknowledge it and acknowledge that changes have to be made. And that has to come from the people in uniform and the people who do make decisions. And while we do that, we have to ask the community to be open to accept that there is change happening and that there is change coming, and to recognize it, because it's going to take both sides of us to come together. And I know sometimes, you hear people say, why are you asking the community to do anything? It's not the community. You have to ask that, because you have to ask the community to say, you had a way that the police operated that was not good for the community, that was harmful, disruptive, and lives were lost in the way that it operated. We're working towards it operating differently, right? So we have to ask that the accomplishments be acknowledged, that it's acknowledged that change is happening. And again, we need people from, and I'll just say this locally, we need people from the city of Cleveland to apply to become police officers because they understand the city. We echoed that numerous times, and we need people to encourage young folks that, you should be a police officer. There are changes happening. We encourage you to be part of the change.
Perfect. Well, I want to thank the panel for answering my questions. My time is up. It is now time for those who are watching this broadcast to have their questions answered. And so I'm going to bring in Alicia, who's going to ask the questions. Oh, wait, hold on, Alicia. Before you do, I'm going to actually start with the two youngest members who are watching. So I wanted to start with Caleb and Ryan, and wanted to see about what's on their mind tonight. So do you want to start with Earl? Do you want to start with Caleb or Ryan?
We're gonna go with Caleb first.
Okay.
Go Caleb first.
Well, hello, Caleb.
Hello.
Caleb, before you ask your question, just tell us how old you are and what school you go to.
I'm 13 and I go to the intergenerational school.
Great. And what is your question for the panel?
My question is, this is more directed to the officers, by the way. We feel that officers who have been doing their job correctly shouldn't have a problem with issue 24 being put into practice. We should welcome more community involvement. What are your thoughts as someone who works in law enforcement?
So we'll start with Director Howard or Commander or Detective.
Can you repeat the question one more time? Sorry.
Caleb, yeah.
We feel that officers who have been doing their job correctly shouldn't have a problem with issue 24 being put into practice and should welcome more community involvement. What are your thoughts as someone who works in law enforcement?
So for me personally, I don't have an issue with any of that. I've been working with the community the whole time I've been here. I've always been out there. Even when I was on patrol, I always stopped at, there was a group of kids I always talked to in the area that I worked in, the businesses, all that stuff. So none of that stuff is new to me. Being part of recruitment now, I'm constantly out in the community, constantly talking to people. I'm constantly in the schools, talking to children, things like that. So to me, it's no big deal. And I mean, it's doing what I'm doing already.
Well, so in terms of issue 24, I don't think that we should get into the practice of telling people how they should feel, which is kind of sort of what you're saying. Officers can disagree or agree to disagree. The officer can feel what they want to feel. What it comes down to is, do officers follow written policy and follow the directions that they're given, not only from the division, but from the input from the community. So issue 24, it passed. There may be some legal challenges to issue 24. My personal beliefs about issue 24 is that we don't know what this issue is going to do or what kind of impact it's going to have. So I can't, and this is just me personally, how I feel and how I look at things. I try not to predict something that I can't possibly know. This is new. It's about more than just the police department when you really read what's in it. It's as a citizen of the city of Cleveland, there's some language in there that I'm very concerned about. That's not as an officer, this is as a citizen of the city of Cleveland. But as an officer, we're going to do whatever the courts require us to do. Our personal opinions are irrelevant.
And I can tell you that, I've spoken and interacted with many officers across all 5 districts and the different units within the division of police. And most officers, and I haven't talked to all of them, so that's why I say most, they want to engage in the community. They want to get out and touch and concern the people that they are out there serving. They want to balance that with doing their jobs. And I'm a military guy. I've never been a police officer. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I'm an officer in the Air Force. And one of the things that goes towards good order and discipline is having that solid command structure, right? And these officers, they understand, as Commander Johnson said, they have to follow policies, they have to follow procedures. Now, what's even better is if you have that officer who is excited about what is required by policy and procedure. Officers want to go into the rec centers, they want to go into schools, and they want to do these stops. Again, and I hate to keep bringing COVID, but COVID really complicated the plan that when I came on, and I've discussed with Chief Williams and the command staff about what we've been wanting to do. So the community hasn't been able to see that, right, because of that. And as we come on the other side of it, we hope that the community sees more and is willing and excited as well about interacting with police officers. Again, I go back to that. We got to tear down this wall that divides community and police and realize that we are all, we all make up Cleveland, right? We all make up one Cleveland, and we have to interact like that. And now, to a greater extent, it's the same way with our neighbors. When I was young, we interacted with our neighbors way more than we do today. So there's a societal distrust, and we have and that distrust has to be resolved. And it's very important, it's extremely important that distrust is dissolved between the Division of Police, who serves the community, and the community that the Division of Police serves.
Great, thank you. Ryan is up next.
Hi.
Hi, tell us how old you are and what school you go to, and then your question.
I'm 13 and I also attend the intergenerational school. Me and my group, we feel that most methods of community engagement never actually include youth voice or perspective and are mostly staged photo opportunities for adults. What are ways you would suggest to help change this issue going forward?
Great question.
So if I may, and then I'll pitch it to Commander Johnson, you're going to see us in the recreation centers. You're going to see us in the Boys Club, or come talk to our officers. But also look for opportunities to get involved, like in programs like the Explorers program, working with CMSD when we start this vocational program. Our responsibility to the youth is to reach out to the youth and to give them opportunities to come and interact with us. The Explorers program I wish every high school student, every young person would come through the Explorers program. I think they would learn a whole lot about the city itself and about the Division of Police.
Great. So I want to go ahead. No, it's fine.
There anybody else that wants to?
Go ahead, Commander.
Yeah, so one of the things that we've been trying to do is to do exactly what you suggested. We need to get more youth involved. We need to listen to you more often and get your voices on how we kind of are interacting what we're doing. We do it. We don't do it on the scale that we would like. Being a part of not only the Explorers program is a good way to do it, but also Mr. Ingram, invite us out to your Boys and Girls Club. You know, we know that there's more than one. And, you know, I can go down a long list of the youth interactions that not only the Bureau of Community Relations have done, but also the community engagement officers in the districts have done. But at the end of the day, we didn't come talk to you, right? And so that's what we need to change. And the purpose of the CPOP philosophy, the GPO policy, is to go to where you are, to where you're most comfortable and where you are more likely is going to ask us the tough questions that we need to answer for you.
So I would also just suggest really quickly that kids tell the police what they would like. You know, I'll bet the police would like to hear your ideas and what kinds of interactions you would like to be having from the police. So you can reach out to them too. It can go the other way.
So, is there anybody else?
Yes, I want to add one thing to this. What's really, really important is that we've got to go back to something that we had back when I was in school, and that is civics, which teaches about, you know, the political process and gets people civically engaged in school. And so in doing this, what happens is you'll have, you know, generations of children or young people that are going to be civically engaged. And what happens is that they then become a conscious potential voting bloc. When they're recognized as a voting bloc, as a potential group that can shift votes, they will be treated with respect. That's pretty much how it works around this city. When you look at the city where people are treated the best, it's where they vote the most and where there are more property owners and things of that nature. So when young people start to be engaged more so politically, you're definitely going to see a big shift in the paradigm.
Great. Well, thank you. I want to get to some more questions because we're almost running out of time. So thank you so much, Ryan. Alicia, do you have any questions for us?
Yes, we have a couple questions coming in from the community. One thus far, what are the factors that have prevented further progress from occurring over the last 6 years? And then will these be addressed in an urgent manner?
Okay, so.
Yeah. Sure. Michelle, you want to go first? You've been on this longer than I have.
Yes, so I think that one of the main factors is that this has been a really significant transformative change process. I think maybe more than was realized going into it. So many of the fundamental policies that guide the way CDP polices have been significantly rewritten. And it's not just a matter of rewriting the policies, it's a matter of training the officers on the policies and figuring out ways to evaluate whether they are, absorbing these new policies and putting them into practice. I think there's also been, a little bit of resistance to some of the changes that have, been set forth in the consent decree. I think that that's changing, and I'm optimistic that with the new administration that will change even more. But this has just been a tremendous amount of work to get to even where we are.
And I don't think Michelle would disagree with what I'm about to say. I mean, we're steering a pretty large ship, and it takes a lot of effort while you're steering it and rebuilding it, right? And it takes a lot of effort. We've had a significant amount of people who are part of the division of police now that all they know is the consent decree. All they know is the reforms, the training, the accountability, the technology. All they know is that the world's been changing around them. A lot of the officers who were here at the time that the consent decree started and just before have retired or have moved on. It is a very new division of police with the amount of young folks that we have, and we have a lot of reforming to do. But again, there have been gains made. And again, I can't stress it enough, and I keep going back to it, is that the changes that have to be made have to be recognized by the community and say, and say that, you aren't the division of police that you were at the beginning of the consent decree. And we have to do a better job of sharing and communicating with the community the gains that have been made. The 10th Monitor report came out, and there's things that are now in general compliance and operational compliance that hadn't been before. And that needs to be shared with the community. So we really hope that folks, citizens, get more engaged, look at those reports, and we have to do a better job. And I want to apologize to the young people. If we haven't been coming to you before, you're going to see a lot more of us now. And we hope that we are invited to the Boys and Girls Clubs around the city and the recreation centers. We'll get out to those as well, so we can come out to you, because the recognized change in tone and tenor comes from how we interact with young people. And the adults who are in the city, we ask for them to, recognize some of their tones as well, because that can also be prohibitive to us bringing on the young people who we so desperately need to help continue to steer the ship.
Great. Alicia?
I would like to jump in for a quick sec. I appreciate that sentiment. I would like to say too, from a community standpoint, speaking for my team, we also don't want to be told how long we need to hurt. So the same way you want to be acknowledged for the positive work that's being done, which I can agree with, we also don't want to be told how long we should hurt. One of their classmates just was involved in an incident, not with CPD, but another police department, where multiple young men were assaulted, kicked off of their bikes, followed inconspicuously through multiple communities, and a couple, arrested and detained. So those are frustrating things that they're dealing with in real time. In addition to, obviously they've been following a lot of things nationally and seeing how, another officer is being reprimanded for speaking out against his fellow officers in the Ronald Green case. So we understand that things like that are a setback for you guys from a perspective standpoint, but I think we're also looking for you guys to continue to speak out amongst that, within your ranks, to help build that trust as well.
Yeah. Darielle, can I add something, please?
Yes, please.
We've been here before because we've been up under federal mandates with DOJ supervision. And then after the DOJ stepped off, the Cleveland Division of Police have gone back to what they were doing before the DOJ stepped in. So that level of reluctance and so forth, it comes from a place of experience. And so, I just want to second what Earl is saying. It's absolutely on point. We give us a minute to stomach this and begin to believe in this. And then, heck, I'll be on the highest mountain singing your praises as well. But until then, let us see some consistency over a sustained amount of time. And I'm very, very sorry, Mr. Ruiz.
Oh,
And
no,
just, I'm sorry, but just a point of clarification, Victor, for 1 second. I'm not disagreeing with, all these sentiments that are being expressed, but I do want to clarify that DOJ did not supervise the previous agreement. So this consent decree is the first time that there has been DOJ supervision and a monitoring team.
That's correct. That's correct.
If I could add, excuse me,
Sorry, Louise, go ahead.
if I could add, I've been involved from the beginning, and I actually think there's a correlation between the speed in which we start reaching compliance and community engagement. And in the first few years of the consent decree, when people really were, just starting to implement it, we had challenges getting the community involved because of the reasons that have been laid out, that Mr. Henton just laid out. But over the years, as we've seen more community involvement and more community engagement, I personally have seen these conversations and some of these reform efforts speed up. So I just say that the community cannot let up on this, that even after the consent decree, there still has to be engagement, because all systems need accountability, external accountability.
All right, let's go on to the next question.
What are steps that are being made to recruit diverse candidates?
Detective Collier.
So to recruit diverse candidates, we do a couple of different things. Like I said earlier, we are out in the school system, CMSD. We work with CMSD a lot. Like I said, starting all the way down in the elementary schools and talk to the students, introducing them to the careers. We also work with a lot of the different organizations here within the city of Cleveland. We talk to organizations such as Global Cleveland. They deal with a lot of the different immigrants coming in here, so we try to get to them as well, so they can have people represented in the department as well. We do a lot with the, like I said, the HPOA, who works with a lot of Hispanic different organizations here in the city. So we work with a lot of different groups to try to make sure that we have the diversity we need to represent the city of Cleveland.
And to note that the radio has been a huge asset throughout the pandemic, and we have seen a significant change and influx in diverse applicants, men, women, people of color, not just in the Division of Police, but also the Division of Fire. So what we've been doing is working, and now again coming out of COVID, we're going to be out in the community a whole lot more. The city of Cleveland is a diverse city. And I don't think anyone here would disagree that the Division of Police, all of the services, the departments that offer services to the city should reflect the city. And we really do need more people to apply. The difficulty sometimes is coming over that cultural hurdle of that distrust that our community has with police officers. And we need to encourage them that in order to overcome that, we need more diverse applicants, so that we can have diverse hires and we can break that stigma.
Great. Alicia?
Yeah, kind of a follow-up question to that. And I know this was in place years ago, but do you believe that police officers should be required to live in the areas that they serve?
Director?
Can I address that?
Yes, Director.
So some time ago, Mayor Jackson had a residency requirement that to work in the city, to work in the city, you had to live in the city. That was something this administration believed, and it was overturned and deemed unconstitutional. Personally, I do believe that it's more productive for the city to have police officers and other employees of the city who live in the city. If we could have it that way, I think that you would see more of that. But that was an effort that had been done, and it was deemed unconstitutional by the courts.
Alicia?
Yeah, the next question here is, can the panel speak to how issue 24 can bring the police department and the community closer together and begin to create supportive relationship between the two?
Okay, I'm going to start with Victor, and then we can go.
Well, I think it certainly elevates the voice of the community and gives more power to the voice of the community. I think one of the things that Mayor-elect Bibb has said is that, as the person who will appoint members, to the panel that, he will bring people who care about Cleveland, who care about building bridges and care about safety and effective policing. So I do think that it will bring people together now that we have more of a balance. We'll have more of a balance of power.
Great. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry. I just think that it really is going to be able to bring folks together, because like I said, I think that, more times than not, you're going to have officers who are going to see a drastic change in culture. You know what I mean? There's going to be a cultural shift within policing, and they're going to welcome it, because then they can feel comfortable doing the right thing, not feel an issue about it, not going to feel like they're going to be ostracized or penalized as a result of it. So it's going to be support for those officers that have issues, have complaints, and they're just going to feel that support, that there's going to be, some recourse for them. So, I'm real confident in that. And then as a result of the change in culture, the community is going to feel it in the way that they're being treated, and just in how they're watching that bad apples are getting done away with, which I think is incredibly crucial, because we've had many, many, many missed opportunities to get rid of some bad apples. And hopefully that's going to change now.
Michelle?
Yeah, I think that, the result of the election is a very clear expression by the community that they want their voices to be heard. And I think that's always a good thing. And it's always helpful to advance the process to focus on what the community is saying.
Earl?
If you're not doing anything wrong, you shouldn't have any issue with it. You don't have anything you need to change, any behaviors that you need to change. So I think myself and my group talked about it. I mean, that's kind of our sentiment. This would be a help to what Kareem said for officers who have been looking to try to shine a light on some of the negative behaviors but haven't had the support. This will empower them. This will help officers be able to hear from the community, which I think can alleviate a sense of classism to a degree, and making them not feel, for some who unfairly feel like they may be above the law because they're officer. This will kind of put things back on the even playing field. And like I said, if you haven't been doing any of those negative practices, you have nothing to change. You can keep policing as usual.
Director?
So I'm hopeful that that the right result comes out. I know that we have officers who want to do the best they can for the community, and that's what most of these officers have been doing. Over the last year, we've terminated more than a dozen police officers. We've kind of disciplined on more than 30 officers. So the accountability piece is there. I'm also hopeful that the community is going to be receptive of officers as they get back out into the community under the plan that we've been looking to institute for some time. So I'm going to be very hopeful. And I would, again, you have to hold everyone responsible. The police officers have a much greater responsibility, absolutely, to do good in the community and take care of that community engagement. But our community also has some responsibility. And I'm not telling people how long they should hurt or when they should heal. I've been personally touched by some of the things that have happened in the media, and that's part of the reason why I've dedicated my career to reform. But it has to. You can't speak with a forked tongue. You can't say rejoice in the loss of life of a good officer, and then talk about you want community collaboration with police. So we have to be careful with what we say.
Well, Director Howard, Detective Collier, Kareem Hinton, Michelle Heyer, Earl Ingram, Victor Reese, Commander Johnson, and also Ryan and Caleb. I want to thank you so much for your time and your insight on this very important topic of the consent decree when it comes to the Cleveland Division of Police. That is our time. We are out of time, but the conversation will continue. So I do want to thank you for your time. And I would now like to hand it over to Helen Forbes Field, who will have closing remarks. Helen?
Thank you, Darielle, for moderating this evening's discussion. And thanks to our sponsors Cuyahoga Community College, and Rockwell Automation, as well as our many community partners for their support in bringing this important conversation to life. We also want to thank the Cleveland City Club, WOVU 95.9 FM, WOIO, Cleveland 19 News, Ideal Stream, and WKYC Studios, who live streamed tonight's conversation. Ideal Stream will also air a replay of the conversation next week on the Sound of Ideas. Tonight's conversation concludes our 11-part series in a journey of community dialogue. This journey was to present facts, opinions, and emotions on a very important topic for the future of our community. In this series, we've heard from government and police officials, community leaders and advocates, families who have lost loved ones, and of course, you, the public. Each of our voices matter, and each of our experiences make up the community in which we live. And at United Way, and also the NAACP, we endeavor to enrich our community so that we all can thrive. Lastly, we thank each one of our session moderators, our panel participants, and community members for joining us on this mission to create a voice, to encourage engagement, as well as advance understanding of the Cleveland Consent Decree and of each other. Thank you once again, and please have a wonderful evening.
Lena Lai in for Betsy again. I'm Jay Crawford. Lena, happy Tuesday to you, and happy Tuesday to everyone watching at home.
Happy Tuesday to all of you. But let's start tonight with some breaking news. A Cleveland priest was sentenced to life in prison for crimes committed against at least 5 teenage boys and for possessing explicit photos and videos of young children. Brandon Simmons is live outside a federal court in Akron with the breaking details. Brandon, what do we know?
Yeah, hi, Lena. 41-year-old Robert McWilliams has been a priest since 2017, and in that short amount of time, he took advantage of his victims, even extorted some of them using religious sacraments. Now, it was back in December of 2019 when 3 News Investigates cameras was there while he was arrested by Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force for possessing and storing child pornography. But as the investigation went on, investigators found out he used his role as a priest to obtain some of the explicit content that he had. Court records showed McWilliams would extort teens using info he got from them during confessions, which is supposed to be a private religious sacrament where one confesses their sins in confidence. But McWilliams, under different aliases, used that info to get explicit material from the kids that he preyed on. Geauga County Prosecutor Jim Flay says they're thankful to those victims who came forward reporting McWilliams and got this investigation started.
You know, all of these types of cases are disturbing. I think this has gotten more attention just because of who the defendant is. But, you know, we're just happy that we were able to stop this before it got too serious. We really, I think the number of victims were limited, and we were able to get him out of his position of authority relatively quickly.
Now, McWilliams is an Akron native and spent his time as a priest at St. Helen's Catholic Church in Newberry Township, which is located in Geauga County. He also spent some time at St. Joseph's in Strongsville, where he was arrested. Now, of course, he'll be spending his time now for the rest of his life in federal prison. Now, while there were 5 victims who were named in this case, there could be other victims who were out there who did not come forward. Of course, this case today does provide some justice for those who did decide to come forward in this case. Also, just want to let you know the Catholic Diocese did send out a statement just moments ago, and they said they're thanking law enforcement for making sure that McWilliams was justly punished, and they're also offering prayers to everyone who was impacted by the crimes that he committed. Lena.
Right, Brandon Simmons reporting live from Akron with those breaking details. Brandon, thanks.
Well, next up on your feed at 5, the Browns could be without one of their biggest playmakers this Sunday when they go to New England, as running back Nick Chubb has tested positive for COVID-19, and he's not alone. 2 other running backs also testing positive for the virus. This is certainly not the news the team was looking for as they begin preps tomorrow for the always difficult task of going to New England to play the Patriots. Remember, as we told you yesterday, they have not won there since 1992. We need to point out that, when you first heard this news, it sort of takes the wind out of your sails. You're like, just when things started to look so good. There is still a chance that these players suit up on Sunday.
Yeah, important to note that they were vaccinated.
Yes, that's a big part of this, especially with the rules with the NFL and the NFLPA. Guys, when we got word of this today, I had a little bit of deja vu from what we dealt with last season with the Browns. I mean, there were so many different times that they had these situations, and at those times, I thought the Browns handled those situations as best as they could. It's difficult to navigate through all of this, but I'm going to tell you everything we know, and hopefully we'll address all the questions and all the concerns. First of all, as Jay and Lena said, the big one, Nick Chubb. He has tested positive for COVID-19. Big news. Obviously, he is such a huge part of that Browns offense coming off a big game against the Cincinnati Bengals. But according to multiple reports, as Lena mentioned, Chubb is vaccinated. So his status for Sunday's game against the Patriots remains in question. In order to be able to play, Chubb will need 2 negative tests 24 hours apart to be able to play. Now, this isn't just Nick Chubb, unfortunately. We also got word that Demetric Felton, the Browns running back and return man out of UCLA, has also tested positive for COVID-19. But similar to Chubb, Felton is also vaccinated, so same deal. He's going to need 2 negative tests 24 hours apart to be able to play on Sunday. Now, this must have hit the running backs room really hard because another Browns running back, John Kelley, was placed on the reserve COVID-19 list on Monday. He's bounced back and forth from the roster and the practice squad this season, but yeah, the depth certainly being tested because remember, Kareem Hunt is on the IR with the calf injury. So you may be thinking, well, Nick, Jay, Lena, who can play running back? Who's going to be the guy then? Well, for now, this is the one running back that can still play and does not currently have COVID. This is D'Ernest Johnson, who we all remember played so well in that Thursday night game against the Denver Broncos. So this has been a very busy day. This is going to be something that's very difficult for them to navigate through. The one thing I think that they pulled from last year, that we all pulled from last year, is that they did handle these situations pretty well. I mean, this is not easy when you're losing guys and then they have to test again and you don't know who's going to play. Your depth is being tested. But again, I think Kevin Stefanski, his coaching staff, the players, they responded very well with this last year. So we'll see. Hopefully they can use some of what they learned from that to hopefully be ready for New England side.
Yeah, this is strictly a guess, but the Browns are probably right now scouring the free agent running back wire to see who's available.
Yeah, I would agree.
They're going to have to add a body right now, as you mentioned. If these players don't get 2 negative tests within 24 hours apart, it's D'Ernest Johnson. Todd Gurley is a name to watch. Yeah, he's a free agent.
Been around.
Still very young.
I was going to say, let's go back to 2007 here. No, I mean, listen.
Todd Gurley's a young guy. He flamed out quickly. Okay. Just 3 years ago, he's the best back in the league.
That's true. No, 2007. Not that long ago. Well, saying that, depth being tested. We'll see how they respond. Again, D'Ernest Johnson's the guy for now. We'll see what happens going into Sunday.
Get that hot tub time machine, Gurley. You're up, maybe.
He's not that old, right? He's not that old.
No, he's got some football left. We'll see what they do. That's just a guess, by the way. All right, now, as we just heard, these most recent cases from the Browns players are breakthrough cases. That means that they were fully vaccinated, yet still contracted the virus. Just more anecdotal proof. Our vaccine efficiency is waning. Here in Ohio, our current positivity rate is back up over 12%. In fact, the most recent number we got from the state, 12.3%. We were in single digits just 2 weeks ago. And now, after 6 straight weeks of declining cases statewide, we saw a pretty significant jump in cases last week. And those numbers appear to be carrying over to the early part of this week.
Senior health correspondent Monica Robbins here now to tell us what's new on the vaccine front and how do we avoid these breakthrough infections? That's the talk of the town right now, especially because of the Browns.
Wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands.
Okay,
and of course, wear your mask if you have to. And if you qualify for a booster, get one of those too. But a lot of these breakthrough infections, likely why Pfizer is asking the FDA to expand their boosters to include everybody 18 and up. That could potentially happen before Thanksgiving. Now, remember, an advisory board voted against it in September, which is why boosters are meant for those over 65, those with compromised immune systems, and those in high-risk jobs, which covers about 60% of Americans. But now that we know vaccine protection does wane, boosters may make more sense.
I noticed that the state reported they give us breakthrough death numbers every Thursday, but they don't really tell you how many there were the week before and the week before. So we started tracking them, and I noticed in the last 2 weeks, we've had more breakthrough deaths in the state of Ohio than we had in the first 40 weeks. And I got to thinking that can't be right. So I know you dug into those numbers. How do we explain that?
Yeah, I knew you were going to be like, why are there more than 200 people dying in the last couple of weeks? Well, look, Ohio hit a very, very grim milestone. We've now had more than 25,000 COVID-related deaths since the pandemic began. But since the beginning of the year, 10,653 unvaccinated people died and 490 fully vaccinated people died. Now, that latter number more than doubled recently. I asked the Ohio Department of Health if we really had a huge surge in breakthrough deaths. The answer, no. Death stats always lag behind, and breakthrough data is analyzed cumulatively, not on a week-by-week basis. Updates can take up to 6 months to get. So data reported in the last 2 weeks actually dates back to deaths reported in April of 2021, and those deaths could have occurred much earlier than that. So also, keep in mind, the state was pushing local health departments to catch up on their reporting. Unvaccinated people still make up 96% of COVID deaths this year. So consider it was a big data dump. But yeah, it's really scary.
The numbers scared me at first.
Yeah, if you're looking at it and you're keeping track like stats guy over here. So, you know.
All right. Well, that's a great explanation. Thank you.
Let's talk about kids and vaccines, young kids and vaccines. How's that going?
Yeah, well, according to the CDC, more than 430,000 kids under 12 have now received their first dose of the COVID vaccine. Studies show only about 30% of parents are rushing out to get their kids vaccinated, so that number may increase over the next several weeks. Now, on a personal note, guys, I tried to get my flu shot today at a local drugstore, and I was told, nope, you got to make an appointment for a flu shot.
Because you normally can just walk in,
exactly.
Right? They have those signs, walk-ins welcome.
Right, not where I went. And they told me to go online to do so, so I figured, you know, the booster and the flu shot, the appointments were backed up for days. If
really?
Not, yeah, and it was ridiculous. And I mean, I was only checking at one place, but I was shocked. So with kids and with people getting boosters and flu shots, if you need one, now's the time to make that appointment.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much, Monica.
Sure. Still ahead on What's New, we continue to follow the latest on the tragedy at the Astroworld Festival. Now superstar Drake, who is one of the featured acts there, is speaking out. We're going to tell you what he is saying about that now.
But first, a delayed 5G rollout from 2 big-name cell phone companies and some of the best money-saving apps you can have. It's all ahead in our Tech Tuesday.
Matt, just another 5-star day out there. This was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was great. Things turned quickly this evening. After we got in the building, clouds came in. It's kind of murky outside right now. And we do have a chance at a stray shower this evening. This is that weak frontal boundary I told you about that's moving through. We're in the 50s. We're going to have another stellar day tomorrow, another one on Thursday. But by Thursday evening, that's when the changes arrive. We'll take you through those coming up.
Welcome back to What's New. We've got your top 3 tech stories making headlines in this week's Tech Tuesday. I love this segment.
Yeah, well, we have a data breach to tell you about. You know, Robinhood, the trading app, says a hacker got access to its systems last week and took email addresses and full names of about 2 million users. No social security, banking, or debit card numbers, thank goodness. But Robinhood says the breach is now contained and they're working with a cybersecurity firm.
Well, the rollout for faster internet speed has hit a snag. We're all anxiously awaiting this 5G that we're hearing so much about. Both AT&T and Verizon are now delaying that 5G rollout from December 5th, when it was supposed to come out, now until January 5th. Here's the reason for this. The FAA recently said that the service could actually interfere with key cockpit safety systems on airplanes. According to the Wall Street Journal, one of those features actually helps pilots land planes during poor weather. However, telecom officials say there is no evidence that 5G signals will interfere with flight equipment. Cell phone companies in other countries already use the wireless frequencies that are in question. Verizon says nearly a quarter of its users have already upgraded to 5G capable phones. Have you?
Yes, I have.
I have not. I have not.
You know what's interesting?
I have an OG phone. I don't even know how many G I get. I don't know. I guess I have 4.
You have 0 G. No, but see, my phone actually has a little icon here that says 5G, but it's actually not in use.
So it's ready to be used. Right. And I guess these towers are up. They're just waiting to flip the switch, right?
Right.
And here's my question. I don't know. When I had dial-up, I used to sometimes yell at my computer and say, okay, enough already. You know, when the picture would go like line by line. I don't really have speed issues. I don't know what people are doing with their phones that they need to have faster speed. I'm okay with what I have. I FaceTime, I send texts.
So you don't have the need for speed, I get it.
I don't have the need for 5G speed, not yet anyhow.
Okay. Well, let's talk about saving money now. As we've told you before, with all the shortages and delays, you really need to start your holiday shopping now. So here are 3 online tools that you can use to save you money right now. Slickdeals.net is the largest deal sharing community. Savvy shoppers use the platform to share deals that they found, and they also have an app. According to USA Today, Flip, with 2 P's at the end, is another highly recommended app. It curates all of your local store circulars, you know, those weekly ads that you flip through and then you toss in the garbage. Well, it also highlights the best deals for you. And the last site recommends Coupon Cabin. I like this. It's just like Rakuten and Ibotta. You can earn up to 20% cash back on online purchases. And Jay, I don't know if you're anything like my husband.
Yeah.
Whenever he does online shopping, he doesn't have time.
I don't have time for that
codes.
either. I don't have time for that.
And I'm like, this is why you were broke when I met you. I will do all the online shopping.
Now, my wife does that.
You see?
Hey, listen, she told me just the other day, I just got a check for $12 from Rakuten. I think is that how you say it?
Is it Rakuten? Okay.
Rakuten.
I've
like,
been mispronouncing this whole time.
And she said, I don't know. But somehow it got onto my computer. I must have signed up for it. And I just got a check for $12.
Cha-ching?
So, and I said, from what? And she said, I don't know, just items that I've ordered, and then I get this check. So I'm all about free checks that just come to you. So check into this Rakuten or whatever, however you say it.
But you have to go get it. You have to, you know, you got to play the game.
I know.
If you're going to win the check.
Yeah, I'm always in a rush. That's my problem. Matt, how many G are you working with on your phone? Are you a 3G, 4G, OG? What do you got?
I have no clue. I really don't.
I don't either.
And I'm the same way. No problem with speed. Well, I'm not watching movies on my phone or, you know, it's not like.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't know what these folks are doing.
My favorite website was the slickdeals.net. That sounds like a virus waiting to happen. Yeah.
Would you stop?
Slickdeals.net.
Slickdeals.web.
On this vein, you know, the key word here for the holiday season is organized.
Oh, yeah.
And that's your weather word today. Folks, you better get organized or you're going to be really in trouble when it comes time to hand out gifts in the holiday season.
That's what I'm hearing. I hear it every day, yet I haven't even moved. I haven't even budged.
Well, this is just another reminder for you to get organized.
Also, it's just off camera, but that sky cam behind you is a giant spider above your head, Jay.
What?
Oh, you couldn't see it on air, but I could definitely see it staring at you. I was getting a little nervous there. Temperatures right now outside, another mild day. We made it in the 60s. Remember yesterday I said it was going to be a little bit cooler near the lake. That's what we're seeing now. Notice the 50s sneaking in towards the lakeshore, 60s down towards the south. That's our weak frontal boundary that's sliding through. You can see kind of the wind convergence there. There's not a lot of wind, not a lot of power to this storm system. It's going to kind of meander its way down to the south throughout the evening. Clouds have increased with this, though. You can see a couple stray showers out towards southern Michigan there. We may squeak out a few showers. This isn't going to be a big deal tonight. It'll pass through. We'll be back to some sunshine tomorrow. This is what will settle in tomorrow. High pressure briefly settles in. We'll have sunshine mixed with intervals of clouds. Beautiful day once again tomorrow. System out west, though, this continues to stare us in the face. You see on the water vapor here, this big push coming down towards Southern California. That will spin up an area of low pressure that will continue to organize, and it'll ramp up and head up towards Minnesota. I did say it. I didn't even mean to say it. Yes. That's a weather word. Oh, that's awesome. What a great day. I'm going to play the lottery tonight, too, and go to slickdeals.net. That sounds great. As we go with your National Design Bar hour-by-hour forecast, you see the clouds passing tonight. This is tomorrow morning. I do expect some fog. We've got temperature and dew point that will marry each other tonight. When that happens, you have saturated air. We'll likely have areas of fog tomorrow morning. That will burn off by noon. We're in the 50s. It's not going to be quite mid-60 weather like we've been having, but it should be a pleasant day with lots of sunshine. I think we'll top out low 60s south, 50s towards the lakeshore, a little bit cooler again. And then Thursday, that's when the system starts to come in, that big one out west. We'll feel the influence of that. But look at this. We're dry almost all day Thursday. It's Thursday late in the day. We're still expecting that rain to move in. So big picture look at what this system does. Here it comes. Big, strong area, low pressure. It's going to be windy on Thursday. Rain will move by. We'll squeak out a dry day on Friday still until late in the day, and then we turn wintry around here. Couple systems coming at us, cold air in place, lake rain and snow possible and likely. Union Home Mortgage 7-day forecast, 67 will bump up to Thursday, and then the downfall this weekend, rain and snow. We'll take a closer look at that system coming up. Lena?
All right, thanks, Matt. Coming up next, we'll tell you what's new with Ariana Grande outside of the music world coming up in Pop Break.
Plus, a homeowner knocks on his window when he sees these two little devils, these raccoons out in the backyard. You know they've got mischief on their mind. So our little question here for you is, what happens when the homeowner knocks on the window? Do they just get into the trash, stop in their tracks, or hop up to the window? We're going to let you know when What's New comes right back. Look at that face. Mischief.
How do, Brooke? How are you? Fantastic. Great.
Well, we are continuing to learn more now about the tragic deaths at the Astroworld event in Houston over the weekend.
Yeah, Drake is now speaking out on that awful incident that claimed 8 lives. Kira Cotton here. And, you have that as well as other stories in our pop break.
Yeah, that's right, Jay and Lena. There's honestly no way around this story at this point. It's changed so many lives forever. The Astroworld Festival that took place in Houston last Friday night was headlined by Travis Scott, but featured several other big-name acts, including music superstar Drake. The certified lover boy posted a statement to his Instagram last night saying, "My heart is broken for the families and friends of those who lost their lives and for anyone who is suffering. I will continue to pray for all of them and will be in service any way I can." Drake was a guest star during Travis's headline set in front of a crowd of more than 50,000 people that ended in tragedy. And Ariana Grande is taking on a new venture. The positioned singer is again taking on the beauty industry with the launch of her cosmetics line, REM, this Thursday. The products in Chapter 1 are dreamy space-inspired beauty products that primarily focus on eye makeup. Chapter 1 is titled Ultraviolet, includes lashes, liners, plumping lip glosses, lip stains, and so much more. Products range in price from $15 to $24, and all items will be available to purchase on the official REM website. And icon and pioneer Missy Elliott is being recognized for her contributions to the music industry. Yesterday, the 50-year-old was honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The Virginia native shared pictures and videos of the moment on social media with the caption, "This is a moment that I shall never forget. And all the people who have been on this journey with me through the ups and downs and sickness, I want you all to know how much you mean to me." With 4 Grammys and more than 30 billion records sold worldwide, Missy Elliott's career and influence has spanned decades. Certainly a well-deserved honor. Talk about a living legend, guys. With so much death and tragedy in the world, it's so important to give people their flowers while they can still smell them. So I'm so glad she got that moment.
I like that line. Yeah, that's very good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she's an icon.